Hello out there and welcome to Public Conscience. This is the anti-corruption program produced by the Progressive Impact Organization for Community Development, PRIMOG. PRIMOG is a civil society group with a mandate to promote good governance, participation, and accountability in Nigeria. I am Adalbio Biabumo and I'm with Esther Bassi.
Welcome to the program. We are streaming live on Facebook at Official PRIMOG.
PRIMOG is spelled P-R-I-M-O-R-G. On Public Conscience on Radio, we seek to evolve a corruption-free society through the amplification of corruption stories reported by our partner media organizations and drawing citizens and government attention for democratic actions against it. This program is supported by the MacArthur Foundation.
Today, we will be looking at the call for the leadership of National Assembly to swiftly probe fresh allegations of 4.1 billion naira missing, misappropriated, diverted, or stolen National Assembly fund.
And we must understand that the 4.1 billion naira said to be missing, misappropriated, diverted, or stolen belongs to the public, and that should be of great concern to you as a citizen. As we go on, you will hear from the organization that is asking the leadership of the National Assembly to launch a probe into the reported missing National Assembly funds. So brace up and please be ready to join us through phone and text messages. The WhatsApp phone line to send your message is 0902 265 6167. That is 0902 265 6167, and this number is for messages only.
Please begin to send your messages as soon as possible to 090-2265-6167. The numbers to call will be given shortly.
A famous American author and lexicographer Noah Webster said, and I quote, "If the citizens neglect their duty and place unprincipled men in office, the government will soon be corrupted. Laws will be made, not for the public good, so much as for selfish or local purposes. Corrupt or incompetent men will be appointed to execute the laws. The public revenues will be squandered on unworthy men, and the rights of the citizens will be violated or disregarded." End of quote. Unfortunately, this statement is seeming in consonance with some of the issues and challenges our dear nation is grappling with today.
About 2 weeks ago, the Socio-Economic Rights and Accountability Project, SERAP, in a letter to the Senate President, Dr. Ahmed Lawan, and the Speaker of House of Representatives, Mr. Femi Gbajambia-Mila, asked them to urgently probe fresh allegations that 4.1 billion of public money budgeted for the National Assembly is missing, misappropriated, diverted, or stolen.
SERAP based their request on the 2016 audited report by the Office of the Auditor General of the Federation, which revealed massive mismanagement of budgeted funds. According to the audit report, the National Assembly spent millions of naira without documentation, made irregular and unfounded expenditures, and failed to remit taxes or show any evidence or remittance to the Federal Inland Revenue Service.
It is quite disturbing that the Auditor General in 2015, 2017, 2018 reports documented that 4.4 billion of public money budgeted for the National Assembly is also said to be unaccounted for.
It is also sad to mention that a report in 2019 by The Economist had revealed that about $582 billion, that is 582 billion US dollar, has been stolen from Nigeria since independence in 1960. And to help us look at the reported poor accountability and embezzlement of public funds at the National Assembly, we have in the studio the Community Engagement Officer at Connected Development Code, Mukhtar Modibo. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
And we also have a senior citizen, political and social commentator, Chidozie Eze. Welcome to the studio.
Thank you for having me.
We will also be speaking to the Deputy Director of SERAP, Kolawole Oluwadare, via the phone. Welcome. to the program.
Okay, let's get to your demand from the National Assembly. SERAP wrote to the leaders of the National Assembly over fresh missing 4.1 billion National Assembly funds. Give us more insight on what you are demanding from the leaders of National Assembly and some of the misappropriation uncovered.
Thank you very much. I think it's less of a demand, but more of bringing it within the public, bringing it into the public domain. Because actually, the Auditor General, who has written the report and public said since 2016 has made those demands. And he has done that in line with his constitutional powers under Section 85 of the Constitution, asking the National Assembly to account for these funds and recommending that they should be refunded, those funds should be refunded to the public treasury because those funds were not accounted for. And to give proper context to this, the Auditor General is empowered to audit the accounts of public institutions in Nigeria at the federal level. And he has done that, and he does that every year, by the way. And he has published his reports. And naturally, one would expect the National Assembly, whose statutory duties are clearly set out in Section 88 of the Constitution, to look at this report and make appropriate resolutions, including the investigation by law enforcement agencies and the recovery of those funds. But it is interesting, rather in this case, that it is the National Assembly itself that the Auditor General has pointed the finger at has not been able to account for the spending of over 4 billion naira. So the question I think that all Nigerians should ask is, what will the National Assembly do now? And more importantly, who is going to police the police?
Okay, the National Assembly is supposed to be the bastion of our democracy. What magnitude of damage will such reoccurring corruption allegation do to our National Assembly?
Of course, it would affect the credibility of that institution and particularly affect the perception that the people have about the National Assembly. And much more importantly, contribute to that widening gulf of distrust between the people and the government. And one would have expected the National Assembly, like I mentioned earlier, this report has been published in 2016. This is more than 5 years.
More than exactly.
One would have expected the National Assembly to look at this and would have made proper resolutions because the law says they must. But in this instance, because the allegations is against the National Assembly, one can understand the unwillingness of the National Assembly to do the work. And that's why we're calling on the National Assembly and calling on all Nigerians to support this advocacy to ensure that this is not swept under the carpet. And you can just guess how much 4 billion naira will to reduce the deficit of 1.5 trillion that we have in the 2021 budget.
In your letter, you gave the Senate President and the Speaker of House of Representatives 14 days to respond on the measures being taken to address the allegation. Could you tell us what is the latest since you issued that letter?
Ordinarily, as a law abiding Nigerian, if this request is not met, we would approach the courts as we have been given that right, that constitutional right, to enforce this right, which is to asking the courts to mandate the National Assembly to look into these findings and make appropriate resolutions to seek for a reform. But because of the closure of the courts by the ongoing strike, we would not be able to do that. But to answer specifically your questions.
But did the National Assembly respond?
No, not at all. Not until now.
You copied Attorney General of the Federation, ICPC and EFCC chairman, as well as the chairman of the Public Accounts Committees of the National Assembly, and reaction from them. Has there been any reaction from them in the last 2 weeks?
No, not at all. Not from the Public Accounts Committee, not from the EFCC, and not from the National Assembly, and definitely not from the Attorney General of the Federation.
Okay.
That's so sad, given that these anti-graft agencies are saddled with the responsibility to investigate and prosecute. But like you said, nothing has been said. We haven't heard anything. They have not responded.
But we do hope, really, that the EFCC will take this up like they have in the past. They have in the past investigated some of the petitions that the SERAP has sent to them, and we've been told that they are being investigated. But on this particular one, we are yet to get a response. But I'm very hopeful that they'll do their work.
Okay, you're hopeful that they will do their work. And in 1 minute, what would be your charge, if I would say, to the Senate President and the Speaker of the House of Representatives, especially on this case?
It's just simple, really. It's just to obey the law, do what the law says. The law is clear. Essentially, the 6 to 88 of the 1999 Constitution gives them powers to do this. And also, there is that, along with the legal obligation, there is that moral obligation, not only to be seen as being transparent, but really to be transparent. So if these allegations have been made against the National Assembly, who are a critical part of that accountability side, of course, looking at the spending of other arms of government, why can't they complain in this aspect and look inwards and tell Nigerians what has really gone on with these funds? And if there's anybody that is culpable, really, they must be made to face the law.
They must be made to face the law if they are culpable. Thank you so much, Kolawole Oluwadare, the Deputy Director at SERAP. Thank you so much for being here with us today.
Thank you.
We still have on the program the Community Engagement Officer at Connected Development, Mukhtar Modibo, and the political and social commentator Chidozie Eze in the studio. Thank you once again. And for those joining us, you're still on to Public Conscience, a production of Primark, the Progressive Impact Organization for Community Development. The next question will be directed at Mukhtar. At CODE, you follow the money and track implementation of the budget. What do you make of this report and the Auditor General's report of 2015 to 2018, which exposed misappropriation of funds at the National Assembly?
Okay, first of all, I would say at CODE, we track international aid funding and as well as local basic education, basic health, water and sanitation. So we actually, mobilize citizens to do that. So we are looking at what is really close to the citizen first before looking at the bigger issue. So what do I make of it? If you check the report, if you check the letter to the Senate President as well as the House of Reps Speaker, you could understand that the report is 2016 report, and all the allegations are from 2016. So you could be wondering what happened from 2014, 2015, 2016, 2017, 2018, and 2019 till this moment. So I just want us to understand one thing. The letter also specifies that they don't even know who are the exact people involved. That is to tell you, you don't track what you don't know. And if the government did not, or the Speaker or the Senate President will not come out and say, these are the people involved, there is nothing we can hold, right? So the EFCC, the ICPC, and all the anti-corruption agencies could only do something when there is sufficient evidence. Now, the evidences that is detailed on the report of the Auditor General has to do with the amount that is being misappropriated or stolen or whatsoever the name is. But there is no name to that particular thing. So for you to track whatever, at least you need that financial data which is being provided. And you need the personnel, or let me say the money profile. What is that money meant for?
But contractors were paid.
So
and there are no documentation.
In some instance, contractors were paid. And another additional money were paid to those same contractors without approval. In some instance, withholding tax were removed from
but
staff
were not
remitted.
remitted.
Were not remitted. In some instance, we all know that there was a protest by the legislative aids council staffs or what have you, protesting that
aids.
Their salaries have not been paid. And in that report, there are issues where some money were given out to were paid as salaries, and still there were no evidence. So if you look at the entire report, there are two things the report is saying: lack of transparency and lack of accountability. there is no transparency in the process, that transparency will enable people to hold that particular thing accountable. So the documents are not out, the transparent process is not there, so nobody can hold anybody accountable. So SERAP is doing a great job by sending to say, okay, this is the amount, but who is involved in it, we still don't know. And the sad reality is, till today, ever since the letter was sent, I mean, Kolawole just said it, no response. There is nothing that is being done, and the country is silent. The country is silent in the sense that there are other major issues that is bothering the country.
But this one should also bother us as citizens. Major issue.
But what we're talking about is you cannot really identify issues of killing people, issues of kidnapping people, issues of banditry. While growing up, banditry is someone stop you on the road with a small knife, show you like this, collect your phone or money and start running.
But this is not what is obtainable. But the issue of this missing or misappropriated funds should also bother citizens.
Yes, it should. It should.
Okay.
But
let's get to our social commentator. He's here representing the citizens. As a citizen, shouldn't we be bothered when reports like this are published and agencies keep quiet? What do you think is the major challenge?
The citizens are the people that elected the members of the National Assembly.
Sure.
The citizens are the people that elected the governors. Without the citizens, no National Assembly, no governors, no executive, no judiciary. They are supposed to be accountable to us. In this case, for example, the National Assembly, the budgetary allocation, all the federal government agencies, they present their proposal to the National Assembly. It is left for the National Assembly to approve, reduce, or add to their proposals. If in this case, 4.1 billion naira is missing in the National Assembly, am I correct?
Yes.
The citizens have nothing to say and nothing to fall back to, because we trusted these people to advocate for us, to do the diligence for us, and now they are found culpable. What do? They put us in a state of hopelessness. The EFCC, ICPC, two of them are brain children of former President Obasanjo, to take care of all this kind of thing. But now, what we advocated for is not what we are saying. Our people will say the masquerade is now scattered from the head. Then you see the person who is there. If National Assembly cannot appropriate money, cannot judiciously use money, what power do they have to check the executive and the judiciary?
What powers do they have if they cannot account for the money?
Mukhtar? All right, so in tracking the budget, how prevalent and rampant does your organization come across cases of non-remittance of revenue and other infrastructures in the public sector?
Other infractions.
Okay, infractions in the public sector.
So the truth is, one of the major issues that stop a whole lot of people from tracking, from citizen to people, what we are all doing here is the work of the citizen. We all know what democracy is, demand and supply, question and answers. So one of the major issues is the issue of information. Information in the sense that, the data that will be used to track this particular thing, that data is not sufficient. Now, if you look at the tool we use in tracking, one of it is FOI. That's the Freedom of Information Law that we all know is applicable in Nigeria. but that law is subject to domestication in the state. And there are a whole lot of states that are still battling with the issue of we've not domesticated FOI, so we still have our secrecy.
So they will not readily give out information.
So there is no point of giving out information. I mean, a whole lot of time you get to communities, you ask the communities if they are aware or if they have the ownership of the project, because every project that is meant to be implemented in a community should be the sole responsibility of that community to follow up with that project and also be aware of what happens. So you get to understand that the community is not aware whether there is meant to be construction, reconstruction, or rehabilitation. So the entire process is from the beginning, there is a fault to it because there is no sufficient information for people to fall onto, like he rightly said. And on the second instance, are people ready to go out and hold the government accountable? Yes or no? I will say to some extent no, because the entire process is, we're looking at, everybody will be looking at, why would I go and put myself in a harm's way when there is a means of me shutting down or keeping quiet and get one or two things? So if you look at
keep quiet
analogy,
and everybody suffers.
Yeah, if you look at analogy, I was with a member House of Reps, I don't need to mention him. He gave me an analogy, and I sit back myself, I had to read through. As a member that is coming from a community, if he said he's going to invest in education, it will take him 21 years to reap that point of investment he did. That is the kind of analogy he have. 21 years, and let me give you the analogy. There is 6 years primary school, 6 years secondary school. How many years university? 5. Let's say there is no ASU strike, plus 1 year service before that person will either get a job or something. So calculate, he is thinking in his head, what he is thinking is, if I invest in this person, who are the people that are going to vote for me if I come back to if I come back to contest? So the kind of analogy they are having is that point where citizens will walk up to their house and say, my wife have put to bed, my this as this, then they'll give them money. Everybody is a capitalist alone. He gets that money back or she gets that money back. So the entire process is, why am I giving all these things? The fault, 90% or let me say 95% comes from the people that are not allowing the citizen to hold them accountable. But the citizen has also the mandate. These two issues of power that I always mention, we have to be looking at people from that aspect of power with, not power over. They don't have power over us. We have power. If it is power, we even have power over them because we vote them to be there. So there is no sufficient data. There is no point of that. There is lack of transparency. That's transparency deficit. Accountability deficit from both angles, both from the government and both to the people. And to cap it all, there is issues of trust. There is no trust from government and there is no trust from people.
We all know that there is a trust deficit in Nigeria at the moment. But talking about citizens,
yeah,
from the analogy you gave, just one House of Rep member or a senator.
Yeah.
And then in that community, you have over maybe 1,000.
Yeah.
Ordinarily, the power of the citizen supersedes that of one person.
Yeah.
Are the citizens aware that they have such power?
Yes. So one thing is, I mentioned it, lack of information. So one of the things we have always been doing, that's why I've always said it here, is to empower the citizen. We don't do it for them. We allow them to do it for themselves. But the fact that the information is not out there is another problem. And to add to that, it's not just about the information to be out there. But the problem is, there is that lack of, how can I put it, there is that point of poverty in the land. You understand? That you can't fight it. People are hungry. And the person that is hungry will always look for means to, see how he or she can get what to feed on. But that point of citizen engagement that's why Primark is doing what you guys are doing and other people are doing to get more people involved so that we'll all run together and win together.
So we'll continue to involve the citizens. Chidozie, with your knowledge in the public sector, what do you think is responsible for reports of misappropriation of funds and other forms of corruption in our public sector over the year?
There are many. Greed, selfishness, irresponsiveness, religious and ethnic bias. Recently, it is everywhere that the Minister for Agriculture in Nigeria approved 30 million naira for construction of a mosque. What has that got to do with the economy of Nigeria? Is it widespread? For me, I see that as putting a round hole in a square peg, putting a round peg in a square hole. That is act of irresponsibility and not caring for anybody glad. Is it fair? That is misappropriation. And let me go back to the reaction of the citizens. The citizens can come out to go into whistleblowing systems. But will you people sign, the federal government, sign non-disclosure agreement with us to whistleblow any place where we see this kind of thing happening without endangering ourselves, our lives? It's not possible. We need power. The citizens need power to do their work.
What kind of power?
The power is this. If I'm the Minister for Information and somebody came, a citizen came to me, see, Honorable Chief is here. I discovered another minister, Minister of Agri, Minister of Lands, Minister of Water Resources, how they are being, their money there, how they are using it. That Minister of Information, if he sees it as being fruitful, he will empower me. He will give me immunity. The immunity, I don't be. What we need is immunity to do something extraordinary for this country to move forward.
Immunity, that's the minister giving you citizen
Yes.
immunity. What form of immunity?
Immunity is, I cover you. Whatever happens to you, federal government will take care of your family. Federal government will take care of you. Federal government will take care of your parents. We protect you. We cover you up. We give you incentives to do what is desired, what is required of you, what you do.
Even with, so bringing down to the context of this misappropriated fund at the National Assembly, if there are aides in the National Assembly who know those that benefited from this misappropriated fund, they should come up and say, XYZ, Honorable, this senator are all beneficiaries of this misappropriated fund. Is that what you're trying to say?
Yes. And give them the immunity.
So the speaker gives them the immunity, or the clerk of the National Assembly gives them the immunity?
The chairman of the National Assembly gives them immunity. Those who misappropriated those funds will be exposed. Immunity not only by mouth, by saying it, a written document signed. Non-disclosure. You will not, no circumstance will make you to give the name of that individual who sacrificed his life. Don't give out the name.
But we have the whistleblower policy that is domiciled at the Ministry of Finance under the Presidential Initiative for Continuous Audit PICA.
Yes.
The policy is there.
Adobe, it is not that the policy is there. We want a protocol policy. When the issue of whistleblowers came out, you see people who did it just to get commission. Was that carried at the end of the day? Were they given what they were supposed to be given?
Compensation, no.
They were not compensated. And imagine that particular individual who was not even monetarily compensated. His life is in danger because of the person implicated. We know the policy is there, but actualizing the policy is another thing, you know.
Okay. Actualizing the policy is another thing. We want to get you out there listening to us to contribute to the conversation.
Please follow us on our social media platforms at Official Primorg. Primorg is spelled Primorg. Remember that we are streaming live on Facebook at Official Primorg. And also remember that this program is an interactive one. The WhatsApp phone line to send your message is 09022656167. That is 09022656167. This is for messages only. Please begin to send your messages now to 09022656167.
And the question would want you to respond to is, do you think corruption stories get the needed attention in Nigeria? And how do we get public office holders to respond swiftly to corruption stories? And how would you react to what you have heard? Let's get back to Mutag. What could be responsible for the National Assembly leader's slow pace in responding to a report of embezzlement right under their nose?
Lack of transparency.
Again.
Lack of accountability. Because, I mean, you might not, you as a National Assembly member, if you're meant to be representing people, each and every National Assembly member is representing a constituent, and each and every citizen belongs to one constituent or the other. So your being silent in there automatically means your constituent is silent. So if there is anything in that aspect that has to do with, I like the statement you mentioned earlier that the money belongs to the public. Right? So if a National Assembly member happens to be in there and he kept quiet or she kept quiet, automatically she's silencing her community. She's silencing her constituents. And the only thing that will make it work is when the people are aware, when we were able to do our job in the civil society space by empowering people with the site information, with giving them the required information for them to begin to inform their members. Hey guys, you are representing us, and if you're representing us, this is our mandate. That is why we're always keen on how can we do a legislation that has to do with participatory point of legislation, where people will be involved.
Let me take this call. Hello.
I'm calling from California. My name is Alao.
Let's hear you, Alao.
Is what is going on in this country, and the government is not to share with us. Even what we say we want make a school to be free. Most of the government schools in this Nigeria today, they are paying money. They are paying 4,900 for all the government schools, and they are collecting 2,000 naira for PPA. Where the money is going to? And later they will say they want to eradicate eradicate the illicit public this country. Where those money is going to? Go to most of the government secondary schools in Nigeria here today now. They are paying school fees almost 4,000 plus, and they are paying PTA almost 2,000 naira. Go and do investigation. All these things will start to clear. We have a senator, we have a House of Assembly, and they are returning. Most of these schools are paid back.
Which school? Could you give us a name of one of the schools, please?
I can say Carol Government Secondary School. And they will pursue children out of the school. That if they are not paying, they will send them out of the school. They will not allow them to write them down. You can go and do investigation. I do my investigation before I talk. Carol Secondary School. Karishi.
Okay. Thank you so much for your contribution. We've taken note of what you just said. Chidozie, we've talked about whistleblower and encouraging citizens to blow the whistle, and you also mentioned that some people don't get paid, but there were Nigerians who got paid. Just 6 months into the whistleblower policy implementation, the then Minister of Finance, Kemi Adeosun, said that the ministry had paid about 375.8 million to 20 whistleblowers whose information led to the recovery of 11.6 billion naira. So citizens get compensated when they blow the whistle. Mukhtar, I cut you short because I needed to take that call. Could you please complete?
That was the time of Kemi Adeosun. How many years now?
But there were still people who got compensated.
the current minister should enlighten us on the people, how many people that have been compensated. Don't give us names. We will appreciate it.
We'll work towards that and ensure that the minister gives us names and how much they have been compensated.
Thank you.
So I was talking about participatory legislation, where people will be involved in the day-to-day activities of the legislative arm of government. Because you're representing people, if you're not speaking for them, then automatically you're speaking for yourself. And speaking for yourself, you're not meant to be there. So if these people are involved in the day-to-day activities, where you get each and every House of Reps or Senator or House of Assembly member or a councillor should have what is called a constituency office. And in that constituency office should put like a time where he go give details and what. I mean, governance is not rocket science. There are other members in the developed countries that do as far as going to create a relief, or let's say a mechanism where you don't need to come in and say, okay, you're whistle blowing or you're doing whatsoever. You just write and drop it in the mailbox. Nobody knows. The person
Anonymous.
will investigate and continue the whole thing. I mean, people are doing it. So if we're doing participatory governance, automatically I will take ownership of everything you are doing as my member, as the governor, as the commissioner, and what have you. So what am I trying to say? Let's address a private issue. As a member, you have your own private issue, maybe your family, your whatsoever. Address it in a private way. But when it comes to your job, which is a public, you're serving the public, then address it in a public way, without taking it back to being private. Because what we're doing now is we're addressing a private thing in a private way and addressing the public thing that is meant to be in a public way in a private way, without informing people.
You did mention constituency office. You work at the grassroots,
Yeah.
with them at the grassroots.
Yeah.
How many constituency offices have you seen?
So, to be honest with you, I used to one of the projects we are tracking now is constituency project in Kaduna State, which we have been involved in seeing House of Assembly members, House of Reps members, and we're even organizing a retreat where we will be bringing all the House of Reps and senators, if possible, of Kaduna State in one place, and the MDS that are implementing this constituency project to understand, what they are up to and what have you. Because sometimes when we don't get to engage these people, the government, or bring them in one place, or bring communities, bring the community leadership, both the formal and informal, bring the members, bring the implementing agencies. There are things that tend to let's say, we'll just get to forget about it. So the truth is, I might not have been seeing constituency offices, but things sometimes, let's not just calculate it as it's not happening. To some extent, it is happening, but the constituency offices might be there. They are called constituency office, but are they really doing the job of the constituency office? That is what I don't know.
Okay, thank you
So
so
the
much.
buildings are there, but
the buildings are there, but you're not sure if they are doing what they're supposed to do. Now back to National Assembly and the misappropriated funds, 4.1 billion. Ordinarily, when ministries, agencies submit their audited accounts to the office of the Auditor General sends to the Accountant General, forwards to the Auditor General, then from the Auditor General to Public Accounts Committee at the National Assembly, because the National Assembly has that oversight function. But what happens when the National Assembly itself, that has this oversight function, is the one fingered in this report? That's where you have the anti-graft agencies come to play. So now our anti-graft agencies are very important in the fight against corruption. What would be your advice to the EFCC and ICPC in delivering their mandates?
ICPC was created. I mentioned it earlier, and EFCC.
Yes.
Brain children of Olusegun Obasanjo. It is because of what Nigerian citizens saw. Corruption rearing its ugly head here and there, that those two agencies were created. Now, talked about immunity. The National Assembly, what powers has this chairman of this, the present chairman of the FCC, has he got the guts to go and put it on the table of the chairman of the National Assembly?
That if he has the political will.
Where? Has he got the powers? Has he got the courage? Has he got the backing of the executive to deal with the National Assembly members, who in turn will appropriate their budget for next year? It may not be possible because of lack of political will and the fear of the unknown.
The fear of the unknown.
Yes.
Okay, we have a message on Facebook from Freddy Ogale Freddy, and he says the country is immersed in deep corruption. You can see why the former British Prime Minister of the UK said that Nigeria is a fantastically corrupt nation. We want to change that narrative. We don't want to be seen as a fantastically corrupt nation. We want other countries to see Nigeria as a country that is serious in the fight against corruption, which the president has told us that, he's coming in to fight corruption. The present, I will direct this question to Mokhtar Modibo. The present administration has always shown their desire to fight corruption. Why are we still having serious transparency, like you mentioned, an accountability challenge in the management of funds in the public office?
Yeah, so the truth is, it's another thing to say something with the lips, or let me say with your mouth, and it's another thing to implement it, right? So we've always been talking about political will of taking things, and then we've always talked about engaging government, engaging citizen in governance, right? Differentiating between what government means and what governance means to citizen. So the fact that people are not engaged, that is to tell you that there is no political priority or there is no political will. To my own analogy, that is my personal analogy. If 15 people are taking certain amount of money in the previous administration and nothing happens, in this administration, maybe the only thing we reduce in this administration is the churn of it. You understand? Maybe 15, now 2 people are taking. Because in this administration that is fighting corruption, we have had an issue of snakes and monkeys swallowing money. I don't know if you understand. It might sound, you will be laughing about it, but it's something we really need to sit back and ask ourselves. So there have been a whole lot of issues that will hamper the fight against corruption because people are not being carried along. I'm just reading a report. First Bank is saying they are going to close all their 36 or something branch in the south, simply because the government was not able to secure the life and properties of people. So take a look and see how much will be lost. How many people will enter another system that is not theirs. System of
unemployment.
You understand? That is not theirs. So the whole thing is, there is enough poverty that is making people to continue doing what they are doing. And as low as, beating traffic is corruption, so if I call you now and say, hey, beating traffic is corruption, you'll be like, are you mad? The number of money, look at the kind of money, 4-point-something billion. Bring 4-point-something billion, put it in a bag. You must work for almost 4 years before you spend that money. But it's missing and nothing will happen.
But the fact is that this money actually left from an account. I want to
an account,
so
right?
We should be able to trace it.
Yes, that is the analogy. And money from an account to an account can be traced. But who are the people that will come out and say this is where the money? I mean, till today we're still calling for the amendment of the Auditor General bill. You understand? Is it amended? It's not. And other bills are being passed. They are being signed.
So there's no priority.
Political priority is the biggest point we need. If you're fighting corruption, don't fight corruption in your mouth. Fight corruption with...
Match it with action.
Thank you. And that is it.
Chidozie, you're nodding your head like you want to say something. You're eager to say something. Okay?
that money goes in chain. If people go into serious check on that money, about 200 people were involved in putting that money inside their pocket, including banks. A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H to 26 may be involved in this money. And that is why it may be difficult to recover.
Okay,
No, continue. You wanted to say.
If, let me take example in a family, a nuclear family. You drop 20,000 naira for your family consumption. What your wife tells you, what your husband tells you about that money can easily be traced between you two. You took 5, I took 5, you took 20, and all these things. But in this kind of circumstance, 4.1 billion, can somebody take that money and put it inside his pocket? It is very, very difficult. Because the person he's talking to release that money has a share. The bank, which will house that money, has a share. The manager, the account officer, that is how this thing goes back to the last person.
We have a serious challenge from what you have just said,
Serious challenge.
which we need as a city. We need to fix. When it comes to corruption, corruption has deprived us of a whole lot.
The citizens where I belong can do effective,
The office of the citizen.
office of the citizen can do effective investigation. Give the citizens power, give so many things we are hearing now that they kidnap all this. Leave the federal government or leave the federal minister information, you will not hear anything. If you say they say it's a fake news, at the end of the day you find it to be real.
Okay, we're trying to wrap up now because our time is fast spent. So, in 1 minute, how do we galvanize more citizens to key into the anti-corruption fight?
Simple. Let the federal government, let Lai Mohammed, as of now, promise the citizens that nobody will be implicated if information is given to them that money is here, that you are protected. Nobody will hand you, nobody will say.
Okay, immunity, like you said. Let me take this last call. Hello? Yes, your name and where you're calling from.
My name is Chef Charles. I'm calling from Dallas Extension.
Okay, good to have you back. In 1 minute, please.
My contribution to this is that we have to go back to the drawing board. As a matter of fact, you see these our registrators, people who do want them to go to their various, to exercise their function, they don't do it. Because, the reason why corruption is rising on daily basis in Nigeria is that from these our leaders, what they should be doing, and there should be a policy that if you are a senator or House of Reps or House of Assembly member or councillor, you are entitled to one official car. If we don't do away with all this, that is the reason why we will be having issues. We will not be able to do our job.
Okay, thank you so much. Mukhtar, in 1 minute, how do we galvanize more citizens to key into the anti-corruption fight?
Let's understand what governance is, and let's differentiate between governance and government by engaging our government not with power over, but power with. Understanding our own powers, understanding their own powers, and watching them do what they are meant to do. If they are doing it, let's let them do it. Let's help them do it. If they are not doing it, let's call them back and send the people that will do it.
I was going to say that. Thank you for mentioning it. As a citizen, if you feel your legislator is not doing the right thing, you have the power to recall. Don't vote the person next time, because some of them would want to come back as your governor, legislator, senator, or at the state level. do not call them back. Do not vote for them again. Explore other options. People that you feel can deliver on your mandate, because actually you elected those people, these legislators, to represent you. So if they're not doing what they should do, and you also have the power to ask questions. This money, what happened to the misappropriated 4.1 billion? Imagine what 4.1 billion will do to your community. So you should get involved. It's not about code, it's not about Primorg, it's not about Chidozie alone. You should be involved. It concerns all of us, and that is how we are wrapping it up on today's episode of Public Conscience on Radio.
Please visit the news page of our website, news.primorg.org. That is news.primorg.org for all the details of our reports and interview. Visit our website www.primorg.org to get all the information about Primorg.
And you can watch our videos on Primorg TV, our YouTube channel. Please subscribe to get reminders when we have a new post. We sincerely appreciate our guest, Community Engagement Officer at Connected Development, Muktag Modibo. Thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you for
And the senior citizen, political and social commentator, Chidozie Eze. Many thanks for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Want to also sincerely appreciate the Deputy Director of SERAP, Kola Wale Oluwadare, who spoke to us via phone. And for those of you who called in, those who contributed via Facebook, we sincerely appreciate each and every one of you. Public Conscience is supported by the John D. and Catherine Thee MacArthur Foundation, committed to building a more just, verdant, and peaceful world. Get more information about the foundation on its website, macfound.org.
Join us here again, same time next week, for a town hall meeting on the whistle-blowing policy of the federal government. Remember to follow us on Twitter, Facebook, and on Instagram at Official Primorg. I am Esther Bassi.
Remember that you can give us information or hint about corrupt acts through our phone 0902 265 6167 or info@primorg.org. I am Adaobi Obiabomo. Stay safe.